This is Hope from Crafty Hope, and I am working on ICAD 2019 from Daisy Yellow. Here's a quick peek at the 3 cards I've created so far. Um, this starts in June and ends at the end of July, and again, it's issued from Daisy Yellow. And I am working with 4x6 cards, not the standard 3x5s, because that is just what I had on hand. So the first card, Daisy Yellow, which is Tammy, she offers up some prompts, and I'm in some cases going to work with the prompt, in some cases not. It depends on really how inspired I feel. And this first one, I had a couple hours to think about it, and it was mailbox. And so I decided to take a handwritten letter that I had in my stash and glue that straight onto my card. And then I grabbed a bunch of different pieces of like scrapbook paper. These are all kind of a thicker scrapbook paper, almost cardstock type, rather than like a really thin one. And I have all kinds of scrapbook paper in my stash because I find it at thrift stores or some of it's been gifted to me and I don't ever know what to do with it. So I thought this was a fantastic use of it. So I took that scrapbook paper and decided to cut out basically a mailbox and three different scrapbook papers to have some fun patterning with it. So I cut all that and decided to have a little flag that's up. Now, looking back on it, I realize my little flag I think is backwards. It should be pointing in the other direction, but that's okay. I got it on the right side of the mailbox. It's just the flag's in the wrong direction. And you know what? Creative, it's my art and I can do what I want. So I'm using a matte gel medium just to glue the scrapbook paper together. I'm getting that little like door front on there. And then I'm taking a couple sprays. One is a alcohol ink spray that I made using a marker and just some alcohol. And I get that down, and I don't know why I used both of these. I think I wanted variegation, but once I used that blue Dilutions paint, it kind of covered everything up. I'm using a little water to spread it around and not make it so thick. And I wiped it down a little bit with just a rag. And I'm going to dry it real good before I move on to my next step. As you can see, I always seem to miss the corners anytime I'm using a specific size of thing. So using my Oohoo glue stick, just glued that back down. And then I've got walnut stain distress oxide that I'm just going around my scrapbook paper elements there, just to give them a little bit of aging and definition once I put them on there. And since I didn't do that before I glued that little door down, I've got a Stabilo all pencil in brown that I just kind of put down there, and I'm using a water brush to go around to give that door some definition and shadow too. And then I'm back to my gel medium and gluing everything down. I like that this doesn't dry too quick because once I put that down there, I realize that that flag is not as high as I want it to be. So I'm able to pull it up a little before I glue it right there in place. So once I get all that down, I've got these I guess they're letter stickers of some kind from Tim Holtz. I was just going to put some random numbers down, like for the mailing address. And as soon as I started doing that, I realized, oh, it would be so much more awesome to put down 2019 since that's, this year. And it's the 2019 ICAD. So I put down those numbers and then took that brown Stabilo that I had sitting there just to make a little shadow with the numbers so that they would stand out a little bit more. And then I realized I had a little bit of like blue paint on my desk that I decided to make some clouds in the sky. They don't really show up in the end because that blue on blue once it dried, it didn't have a whole lot of effect. So you can kind of see them there and these little pictures. And that was that first one, mailbox. Now the second one, day two's prompt was peppermint. And oh my gosh, y'all, I had no idea. I just wasn't inspired at all by the prompt, so I decided I was just going to ignore it and start sticking some collage papers down. These all are just some random things. I just pulled some things out of a bag I've got of different things and just started gluing them down. That's a piece of like a spiral notebook, and I really like the shaggy ends, so I kept those there poking out from the top, and I kind of really like that. I hope I can keep those from tearing off the card eventually. So I'm just collaging down these papers. Like I said, I have absolutely no direction with this, and I ended up working on this one in 2 different sessions because I had to go to work, I think. So that was a bit of distress crayon that I just scribbled on there, and then some yellow acrylic paint from Hobby Lobby. And I am just putting things down with my finger and smearing things out with a little bit of water, and I rolled that over to dry it a little bit, and I have no clue. I just, like I said, this one, I just wanted to play. And there's some green of that Hobby Lobby acrylic paint, and I'm smearing that all around and gluing things back down where they go. And in the end, when I come back to this, I have more of a direction with it. But for now, like I said, I'm just pulling things out that strike my fancy. I think here I'm grabbing Spice Marmalade Distress Oxide and some of my hand carved stamps. And I've got this one that's got like three little, I don't know, like petals on it that I'm putting on there. And this ends up being one of my favorite things in the end. On this card, that upper left portion of it, you'll see here in my second session what I do and what makes it stand out so much for me. Now this just, I don't know, it just seemed too bright, so I wanted a little dark. So I've got some Payne's Gray acrylic paint there, and again, that's the Hobby Lobby Master's Touch brand acrylic paint, and I used my little brayer and just rolled that out a little bit just to get a little random darkness on there, and it works out fine. I thought I was going to use this little embossed butterfly that I had sitting there on the side of my desk, but once I put it there, it doesn't work. Now and that's where I gave up, and I came back later, and I've got a red Posca paint pen. I don't know, I think I just wanted that pop of red on there against that green and that yellow. So I'm just making a bunch of little ovals on there, and even smaller ones around it. Just it's nothing in the end, just something. And it hit me that peppermints are, some people consider them spicy. And what's spicy but snarky words? So those are the snarky word stickers from Tim Holtz. And so I took one. Some of the phrases in here I don't like because they're just kind of mean. But some of them I think are funny. So I pulled out one that's almost mean, but still a little funny. And I used that same Posca paint pen, trying to bring more of that red in there. And I used it around the words, and I hated it. Absolutely hated the red around the words. So I grabbed my black Stabilo and went over the top of it. And this just proves if you don't like something, fix it. Make it something different. And the next card will prove that even more. So I'm using my water brush to just highlight that Stabilo on there. And here's where I really dig this. I'm taking just a pencil and a mechanical pencil and giving a little shadow to those little stamps I put in there earlier and scribbling a little bit for some mark making. And up here on the left, you see it gives it this like 3D effect, that shadow over there. I love that. So this card, like I said, no direction. I ended up pulling peppermint there in the end, but it was fun to just play for this card. All right, so we're about to move on to card number 3, which is my favorite of this bunch. The prompt was magenta, and I took a bunch of magenta materials and thought I was just going to make some flowers and layer them and make it really cool, but that really isn't going to work. So I started with a white crayon on that card, and just to give it a bit of a resist, and drew some flowers on there. It's kind of hard to see, but I could see the wax if I tilted the card in the light. So I'm putting some what is that, Liquitex ink on my desk with a watery paintbrush and just painting that onto my card. And you can see those flowers kind of coming through there. And then I'm going to dry this card really good to get that ink dry. Now this ends up making my card super curvy because I had gotten it so wet. I end up pressing it after it's all said and done to flatten it out some. But then I take 2 different shades of magenta acrylic paint. One's a Dinah Wakely, I think, and the other one is that Hobby Lobby Master's Touch. And I'm mixing them a little and trying to get it on there. And I'm noticing that the magentas are just too close. I thought I was going to be getting different hues of magenta, but they ended up all just, it's all magenta. So it didn't quite work on there. So I'm trying to figure out how to get a little bit of contrast. So I've got this, what's it called? Dynaflow ink that I put on a little bit of dictionary paper and dried it, and then I start by trying to cut out maybe some flowers, but I decide I have this punch that makes like petal shapes, so I would just cut out a bunch of these petal shapes to maybe try to layer some texture flowers on top of the card. Again, I'm still working with the idea that I'm going to layer these multiple magenta flowers on this card. It was an idea, and I'm still going with it. I'm trying. And so I start putting them down, and I realize again, oh my gosh, that is just not enough contrast. You cannot see that. So you see, I start playing with things, and I was absolutely frustrated. I was like, what am I going to do? So I grabbed a Neocolor 2 in black and just scribbled and took a wet paintbrush and wet that and moved it around a little bit. I thought maybe I'd bring that green paint swatch in there somehow. And then I turned on my trusty hand carved stamps, and I just took a black stamp pad and this one stamp that kind of looks like a splash that I carved during the Carved December. And I just stuck that down in a couple places, and then I grabbed some washi tape, and I was just kind of going with a black and white thing, bringing in just a little bit of something else other than the magenta. Now this is a cross-hatched, like a grid pattern of washi tape that I got at Target from like the dollar bin forever ago. And then I've got some Tim Holtz tissue tape here that I'm struggling with because it had torn on the sides, and I was trying not to be frustrated because I really wanted to let this flow a little bit more and do what I wanted to do, since my original idea was had gone out the window. Y'all saw it didn't work. It was horrible. So here I am trying to make it work. So I'm just sticking that tissue tape all over there, kind of doing the threes thing, get that odd number going, because they say that odd numbers are better, it draws your eye more, and it's more pleasing to the eye. Now this is a stack of like paper and fabric that I sewed together one day. I just did a bunch of them at one time, so I'd have them while I had my sewing machine out. I did it. And I pulled out one of those chipboard quote things from Tim Holtz and grabbed the word salvage. It took me no time to pick out that word because I was salvaging this project. Whatever I did, I wanted to salvage it. So that word seemed perfect. And I'm even going to pull in a couple of those little petals that I had dyed. And I'm gluing them down, and again using my threes, I'm putting 3 of them down on top of that paper and fabric layer, and then gluing down, and I'm using the matte medium, a gel medium, to glue all that together because of the thickness of all of this. So I got all that, and I'm trimming off some of that washi tape because it was hanging off the edges. And then I want to frame it up, so I use that same stamp pad in black to go around the outside just a little bit, but I really wanted some mark making on there. I hadn't done any mark making, and I grabbed just a basic black pen, and I'm just making some dots, really just some little dotty dashes things, just to give a little bit of movement and to block out some of that where that magenta was so bright, because it was just too bright. I wanted it to get pushed back a little bit. And I'm still messing around with it, scribbled a little bit, and that didn't seem to work. And then I realized I had this not Heidi Swap, who is that? It's a Bria Reese, sorry. Bria Reese glitter pen that I had gotten at Tuesday morning I hadn't used. You see, I kind of got it everywhere. And I'm using my finger to move that ink around. And I completely forgot this was a glitter pen. So when it dried, I could see a little bit of the glitter in it. And I was kind of like, oh, that's awesome. So that was exciting. And I am just darkening things up a little bit, trying to not have too many straight edges and go around that stack there, and really just, play and salvage it. So, and that's exactly what I'm doing, y'all. I'm so happy with this. Once I did take it to go flatten it out here, and I came back later and took a pit pen and went around the outside of that salvaged chipboard piece because it just seemed too white. And that was the last thing I did, and I'm going to let y'all take a look here at how it ended up. And I love all the layers and little bits that are on this one, and I just need to remind myself to just go and don't plan it out too much. Go with my gut. So that's it, guys. I hope y'all are playing along with ICAD, and make sure to give me a thumbs up and let me know what you think of these 3. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.